Welcome to episode 13. Lucky number 13, episode 13 of the Molly Mish podcast. Welcome back. We are now in Croatia. It is September 27th. We are actually exactly 1 year and 1 day into picking up our van in Belgium. So we wanted to do a podcast episode, even though the previous 12 episodes, for the most part, were about the countries that we visited. This one is going to be a little different because we're at basically the 1 year anniversary of our time here in Europe. And we want to do an episode where we talk about our past year, just our experience. For those of you that are interested in what it's like to travel Europe in a van, in an RV, in a camper, what have you, we want to go over the things that we've experienced and the things that we've learned. And first of all, I want to apologize if you hear a fan in the background because it's pretty warm right now still in the van, even though it's almost October in Croatia. We have pretty warm weather. I think we're close to high 70s. We're close to 80 degrees today.
75, Dan.
No clouds, straight sun. It's nice in the shade, but it was warm.
It was warm enough. We jumped into the Adriatic, which is it's cool waters.
Yeah, but I think the water temperature is probably the same as it was like in July or August.
Right.
It's not quite as unbearably hot, which I think it was this past summer everywhere in, not in Norway where we were, but the rest of Europe was pretty hot. So yeah, we're back in Croatia, catching the last probably couple weeks of nice weather, swimming weather, beach weather. So we're glad to be here. Our original thought was maybe we'll go back to Norway after Germany. For those of you that are listening to this for the first time, first of all, welcome. And second of all, you may not understand some of this ration or this discussion that we're having because it assumes that you know where we've been. So we'll come back to that because this at the end of the day, this episode is about our 1 year in Europe. So by the end of this episode, you will know where we've been and all that we've done since September 26, 2018. So, yeah, we're now in Croatia. We've done basically a counterclockwise loop starting in Belgium a year ago. And then we drove down to Croatia, went down to Greece and Turkey, and then went up Eastern Europe, went all the way up through Scandinavia to the top of Scandinavia, Nordkap, Norway, the northernmost part of Europe. And when we were in Greece, we also were really close to the southernmost point of Greece, which is a small island outside of the southern shore of Crete. But we didn't go to the island. You can't take a car there. So we were at the southernmost part of Crete that you can drive to. And from Norway, we went to Germany to be part of this RV show with Dometic, a company that we've doing a little bit of work for here and there. And now we're back. We're back in Croatia. 12 months in, we have some thoughts. We also will have a route of all the places that we went. You can see it on a map. It'll be on the podcast website, mollymish.com/podcasts, and it'll be episode 13, the show notes. It will also be on our Instagram account, right? Because we're going to post that map as well and talk about a little bit about the trip and also reference this podcast episode.
Right. A quick summary of what this podcast will be all about.
Yeah. So we have a little outline that we've prepared, that Marlene has prepared. Thank you very much, Marlene, the preparer.
You're welcome very much. You talker.
The preparer of all things, put together some numbers. I've got some numbers. Initially, I wanted to get more sort of solid, detailed numbers like miles driven, gallons of diesel used, and dollar spent or euro spent or whatever. But I think I can just give you a ballpark, and that'll be pretty close. I can just kind of think about, the places that we've gotten gas and roughly how much it costs and give you an idea what it's like. I think the very specific numbers are just sort of there for show, but I'll give you guys an idea of what it's been like. And we can also really give you a really good idea about the different areas of Europe, because I think this last year was unique in that we spent a lot of our time in Eastern Europe, which is really like the poorer, the less developed, and in our minds, it's kind of like our jam. We really enjoyed going to these, not super expensive, super developed, super touristy part of Europe. So we found that out pretty quick.
I think we just felt more comfortable and able to explore and do whatever we want and really dig into a country and their culture without being limited on how much things cost.
Yeah, and it's not just so much the cost either. It's because most people come to Europe. They go to Germany, they go to France, they go to England, they go to Netherlands, they go to these, very popular, I totally get it. If you've never been to Europe before, those are the places you want to go to first because those are the places you hear about. But then I think for those of you that have been to Europe a few times, you want to go a little deeper, then you may go to a place like Budapest or Bucharest or, parts of Greece that's not super touristy. And there are places like that, like Meteora. For us, it was great because these places in the fall, or actually no, more like in the winter and in the spring and in early summer, they were very, very empty. In fact, for the first 3 or 4 months of us on the road, we hardly saw anybody.
It was just us.
No tourists, no campers.
No.
Yeah, it was just us.
It took months to see our first camper and make our first friend on the road.
We got really excited. Yeah.
They were excited too because they invited us over for bean stew.
Right. This was in Meteora in central Greece. And this British couple, she was from Canada. Mm-hmm. And he was maybe Scottish or something like that. They were in Meteora in the super off season at this campground. We went to this campground because the free options were not very good, and it was unlevel. It was cold and uncomfortable, and and there was just nobody in a lot of these places that didn't. For the most part, it feels pretty safe where we were. But when there's nobody there, there's this thing about when you're in a town or in a village or in a city or whatever, when you're in an area where you think you're supposed to be able to park, there's some comfort in seeing at least one other person at this general camping area. It gives you a little bit of, validation in the back of your mind saying, okay, this is an okay place to stay. But it was weird for us because all the places we went, nobody was there. We're the only people. So it felt like maybe we're not even supposed to be there. But after a few weeks, we got used to it.
Yeah. We totally belong there. It's fine.
Yeah. And we hardly pay for any camping at all. For the most part, we were free camping, with the exception of a few places, Meteora being one of them. But yeah, we didn't see anybody. We started seeing people, I want to say, maybe when we got to the coast of the Black Sea, maybe we started seeing some people. No, we started seeing some people in Bulgaria. Greece, we saw
a lot of people from the Netherlands. Remember all the license plates?
Right. And also in the super touristy places in Greece, like in southern part of Crete, the southern shore of Crete, those really nice touristy beaches. There were people there not necessarily camping, but there were campers there for sure. but there's still plenty of space, and there were also just people there, for the day. There are beaches that are totally empty with maybe a couple people like down on the other end. But yeah, but not really full on busy campers until
southern Norway.
Yeah, Sweden, Stockholm probably.
Yeah,
right.
There was people there, but it wasn't
some of those
like
parking lots in Stockholm. There were 3 or 4 campers in the parking lot.
Right.
So, yeah, Eastern Europe feels like our jam. Like, because when we first came to Europe, we waited for our van to arrive in Belgium for about 10 days or so, and then once we got the van, September 26, 2018. We zipped across and got to Croatia so I can start my paperwork for residency. And we're in Croatia for like 3 months, which really gave us the feeling of home here now that we're back from, being away for about 9 months, because we were here initially for 3 months waiting for my paperwork to get done. So we didn't leave Croatia until beginning of January. We were here for New Year's with our friends that are from Split. And when we left, there was so we went to Albania, we went to Montenegro first, Albania, and we had to buy insurance. If you guys are interested in these countries, specifically Albania, Montenegro, and Turkey, we have episodes that specifically talk about our experiences there. So I think you can go back to those and refer to them in the list of episodes. But we'll briefly go through sort of our route. So we went south down the Adriatic, and we made it to Greece. And between Albania and Greece, we had an issue with our fridge. So we had to get a part replaced. We had to figure out what was wrong with it first. We thought it was the whole thing. We were trying to troubleshoot. We couldn't really figure it out. And then Dometic decided to send us a whole new fridge, which it was going to Thessaloniki, Greece. So we kind of had to zip over from Berat, Albania, to Thessaloniki to get the new fridge. And then when we got there, it turns out it was the wire. It was the cord. The fridge itself was fine. The wire, the cord that plugs in was bad. So we could have just replaced the cord, but at the same time, the fridge that they replaced it with is a slightly different model, and the one that we had was discontinued. So we ended up replacing that fridge in Thessaloniki. But from Thessaloniki, we went to Turkey and spent about 2 weeks in Turkey, came back to Athens, flew to Paris and met with our friends for a couple weeks in Paris. It coincided with their spring break. And then we came back to Greece. And that's sort of where episode 12 ends. Episode 12 ends with us coming back from Turkey.
Do you know why, Dan?
No.
Because when we met up with our friends, the Bodeswells again. And then once we start hanging out with friends, like all vlogs and podcasts go to crap because we're campfire or hanging out at night. So it's kind of hard to maintain this.
Okay, so going back to what we were saying earlier, when did we start camping with people? When all other social media events cease, with the exception of Instagram, because that's much easier to do. Yeah, we didn't blog. Our last blog post was in like Durrës, Albania.
Yeah. And
then our last podcast was Turkey. Yeah. That was when we met up with our friends Bodeswell in southern Greece.
We were at the Fingers. No.
Under Githio.
Yeah.
Right? We were
southern.
No, we met him in
the peninsula.
Kalamata.
Yeah, Kalamata. But that peninsula area.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Peloponnesus.
Yes, thank you.
We met him in the Peloponnesus of Greece. So I want to say Greece is amazing. This whole year, if there's a couple places that I'll look back on that really were memorable, I would say Greece and Norway. Mm-hmm. They were really memorable places, but also there were places that we stayed at probably the longest.
Yeah, Norway a whole month and Greece 2 whole months.
2 whole months. Like 2 months separated with a 2 2 weeks in Turkey and 2 weeks in Paris. So really like a month in Greece and then a month away and then a month more in Greece. But Crete is, like I think specifically was super memorable. But of course, like all the other parts of Greece was really great too. You know, Thessaloniki, just kind of a big city. We spent a lot of time there, but we didn't really go do anything just because it was really big and overwhelming and it was really cold. Snowed on us when we were there the first time.
Right.
And Athens was cool. Athens was, we had a really good experience city camping in Athens and then going to a restaurant and then meeting some locals and some expats and got really drunk there with these with this guy who was like dating the owner.
Yeah, it was a really good night.
Yeah, it was a good night. It was with our friends Jonathan and Meg of Hair Ventures.
Right.
So we'll get into all the details of Greece in another episode. From Greece, we made our way north to Bulgaria.
Mm-hmm.
So we went through like Thessaloniki 3 times just because it's kind of one of these places that you drive through to go to Turkey, you drive back through to go down to Athens, you drive back through again to go to Bulgaria. And Bulgaria was really cool, but, we'll do all these different countries specifically, but we're going to talk more specifically about maybe more like just the general kind of what it's like to travel through Europe. Obviously...
Wait, let's finish your loop. You're at Bulgaria.
Oh, you want to go all the way through?
Yeah, just go really a quick loop.
Bulgaria. We went from Bulgaria. We went to Sofia first, which is the capital. We went from Sofia. We went east to Plovdiv, which we really like Plovdiv too.
Mm-hmm.
Sofia was actually kind of nice because Sofia is the capital, but really easy to get around. There's a really easy metro to use, and there's only 2 lines, so you can't really get lost. And it's really easy to get to places in that city. And I went to, I worked with a guy from Bulgaria back in the day, and I got reconnected with him over email, and he gave us, some pointers on things to do. So that was really cool. Bulgaria has some really cool caves.
That's right. We went to 2 in one day.
Yeah, I had this one cave that I had marked on my Google Maps as a marker, as a pin for years, maybe 6-7 years. When I first saw it, I thought it was really cool. It's called the Eyes of God, and it's just like this cave with these openings in the ceiling of the cave. And then we went to another one that was even cooler. It looked like, if you had like 3D modeling chops and you're gonna render like a sweet cave with a river running through and some like greenery.
It was so fake feeling.
It looked super fake, but it was awesome. And I think the Expendables 2 or something was filmed there.
The Expendables. Right? I think he just found out there was a number 2 coming out. That's why he said 2.
No, I think there's already 2. Maybe there's a 3rd one coming out.
Oh.
But anyways, it's the one with like Arnold Schwarzenegger and
Rocky.
Yeah, Sylvester Stallone, like all the
Bruce Willis,
all the action
Chuck
guys
Norris,
or
the other guy who's Steve Van Damme. Claude.
Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Thank you.
Steve Van Damme is the guy that we went to college with.
Hi, Steve. You're not listening.
I don't know where he is. But yeah, it was filmed there. I think there's some controversy too with what they did. So yeah, from Plovdiv, we went to Varna, which is the coast in the Black Sea. That was the first time we saw the Black Sea. I think we went to Burgas first, which is the closest. Like the Burgas is the town that you get to when you're on the coast. That's when we camped on the beach. It was really cool. And then we drove up to Constanța in Romania. And then we went to like the southern end of the Danube Delta. Where it opens up to the Black Sea for some bird watching. That camp really right nice. On the beach there is really nice.
Might have been illegal, but we didn't get a ticket.
Yeah. We later heard that it's illegal, but they tolerate it. And then from there, we drove inland into Bucharest.
Mm-hmm.
We spent about a week in Bucharest, and it was there we got our diesel heater installed, and we met a local sprinter guy. He's also got a 4x4 sprinter he's building out. He's pretty active in the sprinter group on Facebook, so we connected with him. and he invited us to his country house, his place in the village. That was really cool. And he gave us some pointers on where to get our Mercedes serviced. So we had our 20,000 mile service there in Romania. And those two things that we got done there were critical because we needed to get our 20,000 mile service done somewhere. And we didn't want to go to a Western Europe place where it's going to be more expensive. And also we want a diesel heater because we had burned through a ton of propane early on. From like Croatia until we got to Greece, we had to fill up our propane twice in Greece because it was cold. And we have a really good propane catalytic diesel heater. It's called the Olympic Wave. It just uses a lot of propane. That's the only thing. It puts out a lot of heat, but because of that, it uses a lot of propane. So by getting a diesel heater that's tapped directly into our diesel tank in the car, it's much easier to fill it up. But of course, by the time we got the diesel heater, it was like June, and we didn't really need it, and we haven't used it that much. We've used it a couple times in Norway, but we haven't used it that much. But I suspect this winter it's going to be nice because, we're going to be heading to Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. And I think in Morocco you can't get propane. So if we can conserve our propane for just cooking and use a diesel heater for when it gets cold, it'd be nice. So yeah, we had to get those done there. And then it was while we were there, we also noticed that like our tires has some like sidewall cracks that were starting to show. So we were a little concerned, and we wanted to look into getting some new tires. So when we realized it was kind of hard to get, good off-road tires in Eastern Europe too. So we asked around, and we went on Facebook to the Van Life Europe group, and then we asked some people where to get tires, and they told us to order from this one website in Poland. So we did. We went to the website, and when we actually, we couldn't figure out how to order because it was all in Polish. And even when we translated, it's still difficult.
It wouldn't ship it to the tire centers like every other tire. Like we needed to do something different.
Yeah, not every other tire. They have tires that I have in stock, like in their warehouse. And then there's these other set of tires that they also sell, but it comes from like a different warehouse. So I think that was the problem. They couldn't sell it to us and ship it to one of their stores. It had to go to another address. So then we reached out to somebody we haven't met, but we're online Instagram friends with, who we knew were in They were in Poland last year because she's Polish and her family's from Warsaw. So they connected us with somebody who has a auto mechanic shop that's next to a tire shop.
Yeah, it was perfect.
It was perfect. We got BF Goodrich KO2s shipped there, and then we got those mounted, I think, for cheaper than we could have bought in the U.S.
I think so. It was weird.
Yeah, not a lot cheaper, but like a few bucks a tire cheaper. So that worked out really good. Because we wanted to get that done before we got to Scandinavia, knowing Scandinavia is very expensive. Mm-hmm. And we didn't want to have, something go wrong with our old tires while we're in Norway and having to pay Norway prices.
Right.
So in Warsaw, we also met up with the person that we worked directly with from Dometic. Some of you guys know we're sort of brand ambassadors for Dometic. And we shot a video with them while we're still in California in our four-wheel camper over a year ago. And then they asked us if we wanted to be part of this upcoming RV show in Germany. And we said, sure, sounds like we're going to be there right around the same time. So they said, okay, great. While are you guys in Warsaw, we're going to fly out there and shoot another video with you. So we met up with Jasmine, who is the Dometic point person for us. And then her videographer guy, Jens, who's a freelancer for Dometic, came out, met us. We made a really cool video. These are really nice videos for us because, and I'll put a link to the video in the show notes if you haven't seen it. at mallamish.com/podcast, episode 13. These videos are commercial in nature, but they're shot in the way that really tells our story. In the way that it tells our story, like it focuses on the lifestyle, less on the product. So I think that's really cool because it really gives us something to hold on to as as our life evolves over time, as the kids grow older, as we grow older, as we either, venture into other types of traveling, or maybe at some point cease to travel altogether, and we'll always have these videos to kind of look back on.
I think the question we always ask ourselves when somebody approaches us to do a book or a video shoot or even a film, like a documentary, is do we want to look back at this time, and do we trust that they'll film it in a way that we'll want to watch it again when we're older? And we say yes to those projects. And Dometic is one of the companies that we say yes to for that reason.
Yeah, we say no to reality TV shows, but we say yes to these cool little things.
Yeah.
That we have now. So I have 2 of those things from Dometic. And then we have a couple of nice little articles and book chapters in some of these traveling books that we're a part of. So, yeah, that was Poland, and we really we skipped like how we got to Poland in the first place. So when we left Bulgaria, we went to Romania and we went to Bucharest, and from Bucharest we got these things done, and then we drove up to Brasov.
Oh, the Dracula's Castle area.
Yeah, a couple of Pelish Castle and then Dracula's Castle, which is not Dracula from not the vampire at all, because he's not real. But there is a guy.
Vlad,
the Impaler. Look up Vlad the Impaler if you don't know. He's a pretty brutal guy with the things that he did. But what's interesting is a lot of Romanians think of him as like a folk hero, sort of. Think of him, even though he's done a lot of these awful things to people, but they think of him as like somebody who really supported the image of the Romanians, in history. So, he was one of the inspirations for Dracula the Vampire.
Right.
So we went to go see the castle just because you have to, as we were driving through. And we also we wanted to drive a couple of the really cool roads that take you over Transylvania, the mountains. When you go over Brasov, you drive over part of the mountains. And then there's 2 basically highways that take you back across. One is called the Transfigurason, and that wasn't open yet. We were a little early in June. It didn't open until July 1st or something. So a little bit further west of that is the Transalpina Highway. So we took that. We drove that all the way across, and that was really cool. It takes you up pretty high. Not the mountains there aren't super, super high. We went up to a mountain too in Bulgaria, and there was still snow.
Yeah, Rila.
Yeah, it's where the Rila 7 lakes are, up in their alpine lakes, is the highest peak in the Balkans. So the Transalpina Highway is not quite as high, but it's still pretty high. You get up to the Alpine range, you get up to the parts of it where there's no more trees, and then you come down the other side. And then from there, we actually went to Serbia, and we just drove from there straight into Serbia for a couple reasons. One, that we haven't been to Serbia yet. Mm-hmm. 2 is because our California plated vehicle has to leave the EU/EEA zone, and that's the European Union/European Economic Area, which not all EEA countries are part of the EU, and not all EU is the EEA. Is that true? I don't know, but Serbia counts. So we have to leave. We'll have to go into a country that's not part of either of those at the very least 180 days. So it had been a long time since we left Turkey, and we knew that if we didn't go to Serbia, we wouldn't have an opportunity until, I don't know.
There's nowhere in Western Europe unless you go to the UK.
even the UK is EU. UK still EU. I mean,
Yeah.
as we speak now.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know where you have to go. I don't know. Yeah.
Screwed.
You're screwed. So we had to go to Serbia. But that was cool, though, because in Serbia, we only stayed a couple of nights. But Marlene's cousin, who lives here in Split, is still dating a girl from Serbia. So, and he was actually there at the time in Serbia. So we went to, what's the town?
Novi Sad.
Novi Sad. We went to Novi Sad. Super hot, so muggy. And we'll talk about our time there more specific later, but we couldn't stay very long. We just had to leave. And basically from this point on, we had to zip across Central and Eastern Europe and get to Finland pretty fast. And this includes like the time we had to stay in Warsaw to shoot the video and all that. But we didn't really see anything in Hungary when we left Serbia. We didn't really see anything in Slovakia when we went. We stayed a little bit in Poland, namely just Warsaw. Because we got the tires and shot the video. And then we went through the Baltic countries, Lithuania. We went to
A national park.
a national park in Klaipėda. Klaipėda is kind of a port town. And then there's like an island off the shore of Klaipėda. Or it's like kind of like a spit. It's not really an island. It is an island to Lithuania. But there's this exclave of Russia that's between Lithuania and Poland that's on the coast of the Baltic Sea that's completely separated from mainland Russia. And the history is very interesting if you do any research about it. But from that little spit, if you go southwest, you drive, half of it belongs to Russia, and then the part that belongs to Russia is connected by land, but the half that belongs to Lithuania you have to get to by ferry. So we went there, and that was really nice, actually. The beaches were beautiful, and they have, I think, the biggest sand dune in Europe.
Yeah, and the sunset was so crazy. It was so nice.
And it was super, super far north. And at this point, we couldn't believe how far north we were in relations to the United States. And we were basically in Canada. We were basically as far north as, like, the northern end of Newfoundland at this point.
The sun was setting later and later, so that our days were so long.
Yeah,
it just felt really
close
special.
To summer solstice at this point. So we spent a few days, maybe close to a week, I want to say.
If that.
Maybe not that much. Maybe 2 or 3 nights.
We needed to jam up to Finland.
Right. So we left Klaipėda and then we drove up to Latvia in Riga. Mm-hmm. And Riga is a pretty cool town. We parked outside in the city. We parked outside. We drove for a while looking for a place to park. We parked outside this brewery.
Yeah.
Right. And food was pretty good.
Yeah.
Beer was kind of expensive. Except like on Wednesdays or something, they have this crazy all-you-can-drink deal.
No, don't do it.
it's dangerous. So from Riga, we left and we went to Tallinn in Estonia. And meanwhile, this whole time, we're like stocking up food for Scandinavia because we had heard Scandinavia is very expensive.
Specifically Norway.
Turns out, just Norway. Because Finland and Sweden is kind of like Finland is actually even cheaper than Sweden, and Sweden is like LA cost wise. So Sweden wasn't that much. You can pretty much do your shopping in Sweden and still be okay. But of course, like compared to Baltic countries and countries further south of that, definitely Romania, Bulgaria, and the nice thing is like all these countries still use their own currency. A lot of them haven't switched to the euro. So in Romania and Bulgaria, both places when we left, we just dumped all of our currency, our cash at the grocery store and just stocked up on food for Scandinavia. So for like a month we were stocking up, and we took all the clothes out of our cabinets and then put them in a big IKEA zipper bag, and then we just put food where our clothes were. In fact, we still have one cabinet half full of food.
We overshopped the dry goods.
No, but it helped. We ended up spending a lot less money, and we'll talk about this in our Norway or Scandinavia episode too. So yeah, we probably spent a good 500-600 euros worth of groceries before we actually got to Scandinavia.
We were so heavy.
I definitely felt like we were heavy. Maybe it's just me,
like mentally
thinking that our back is sagging more than usual.
Saggy butt.
But it's okay. We ended up, it turned out good for us. But our goal was to get to Finland on July 1st. And we missed it by a couple days, I think. My birthday is July 10th, and we were in Finland for my birthday in Turku.
Oh, and we left on the 11th to Sweden.
We left on the 11th, right. So we ferry from Tallinn, Estonia. Estonia is a really cool country. Like Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, these are countries that I think people from the United States just don't really think about. You don't really know anything about them. Like, I'm into basketball, so I watch a lot of NBA commentary and game highlights and stuff. I don't get to watch the full games, which I'm kind of okay with because the highlights are good. But you talk about like, I've been a Laker fan too because I grew up in California. So you look at like the Ball brother situation, how like LaMelo Ball played in Lithuania, and people think about Lithuania just like this former Soviet, cold, dark, and country that maybe most people think it's still archaic, but it's not. But the Baltic countries are very advanced countries now. And in fact, I think Estonia specifically, they like accelerated their progress so fast that they have now become one of the most digitally connected countries in the world. So Estonia already has like digital voting. Yeah, they have e-citizenship. You can do everything online. The government has put everything online. I think they have some of the fastest internet connections in the world. Like right up there with like South Korea. So Estonia is really cool. I mean, it is cold and it's dark in the winter, but when we were there, early summer, late spring, it was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And then Finland, we got to Finland. We opted to not spend a ton of time driving up through Finland, through the Lapland of Finland. It turns out we'll come back into the northern Finland part just like a couple times. We kind of cut back into Finland, but we decided that we were going to just kind of ferry across. We went from Helsinki, which we camped outside of Helsinki for probably about a week. And then we got to the town of Turku to the west of it. Then from Turku, you can take a ferry to Stockholm, which takes you to Sweden. And we spent a week to 10 days in Stockholm, because that's where Dometic's headquarters is. We met a few of the Dometic people in person at their headquarters. They took us to lunch. We camped in their driveway, and we went to
showered at their gym.
We used their gym in the building,
and the sauna,
and used the sauna. And then it rained. We did some more shopping, and then when we left Stockholm, I went to a couple museums that were really cool. Mm. We left Stockholm. Initially we thought we would drive all the way into Norway and then drive north in Norway and then drive back south in Norway. But what we decided to do last minute was to go straight up Sweden, partly because our friends Julia and Marcel from Instagram Remember to Explore and Adventure Time Nomads, they had been in Norway for like a month or two already, and they were just about to get to the top, to Nordkap. Then we're like, I don't know how we're gonna meet up with you guys. Like, you guys are going up. Are you gonna come down Sweden, or what are you gonna do? So they were like, oh, maybe we'll just come down Sweden, and you guys come up Sweden, and we'll meet for like a night or two, and then we'll like split off. We're like, well, okay, well, we're thinking about driving up Norway, but then last minute we decided, okay, we'll come up Sweden. We drove along the Baltic Sea, the Bothnia Bay.
Yeah.
Bay of Bothnia.
It's so funny.
I
It's a
didn't know.
funny word.
I didn't know that bay had a name, but I'm sure. I mean, it's obvious that it does. So we drove along the coast, which was really cool, and that's when near the top of that bay is when we met Noreen, the German high school graduate who was embarking on her 1-year trip around Europe. She and a friend were camping in her sort of in the U.S. it's called the Eurovan. Here it's called the T4, Volkswagen T4. And she had spent a year as a foreign exchange student during high school in Oklahoma, of all places. And she kind of rejected the idea of going to a more popular state and wanted to do something a little different. So she went to Oklahoma. And at first we're like, ooh, Oklahoma. But I think she likes it because it makes her different. And then she had a friend there too that's also German, but they met in Oklahoma as exchange students, and now they're friends. So that was cool. It was meeting people like that on the road makes it really fun. And that was near the top, right where sort of Sweden and Finland has a border at the top of the Baltic Sea. And then from there we drove straight up through a small part of Finland. That's when we went into the Arctic Circle.
Right.
And then we drove and met up our friends at Lakslev in Norway. And that was our first entry into Norway. And then from there, we went to...
we drove a lot.
We went to Nordkapp. And
then we shimmied our way down for a whole month. We could have a special Norway podcast.
We decided at that point that Julia and Marcel and their 2 kids, instead of going down Sweden, they would come back down Norway with us. So we used to travel with them for like a month almost.
Yeah, it was nice.
Actually, longer than that, because then we ended up hanging out with them again in Germany. So anyways, we're going to go into, again, more detail about Norway. So from Norway, we did all the cool things that you're supposed to do in Norway, and we got all the way back down to the bottom, visited Marlene's family friend near Oslo, and then we went across on a ferry to Denmark, and in Denmark we just zipped straight down to Germany, basically across the border, almost exactly a month on the day. We left Norway and spent then basically 2 weeks in Dusseldorf. We got a new awning installed. We got some vinyl decals installed on the van. They got clean. They got detailed. It looked cleaner than it ever did during Caravan Salon in Dusseldorf. It was a cool experience, but I think once is enough. And we'll talk about more specific about our experience at Caravan Salon in another episode as well. But yeah, so from there, we kind of just spent about another week or so and came straight back to Croatia.
We swung by Austria to visit some friends, and we just one night our 24th country this year was Italy. We spent I think only one night in Italy. We
went over the Alps. We got a small glimpse of the Dolomites.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah. But don't forget, thanks to Simply...
Oh, yeah.
Simply
Living More?
Simply Living More? She hooked us up with her junior high friend who she hasn't seen in like 20 years, who is a civilian working on Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany. Got us in, and we got to eat real Taco Bell. I mean, we're not talking about... We had Taco Bell in Helsinki, and it was not Taco Bell.
Not Taco Bell. Canada doesn't even have real Taco Bell.
Right, this is real Taco Bell.
American Taco Bell.
It was amazing. It was
so amazing. I even got to steal sauce packets and I put in my purse.
I used up all my sauce packets, and I regretted not going back to get some more to
It was
go.
too fast. We were too rushed.
Yeah, we were rushed. But thanks to Simply Living More and her friend Zach for getting us in. It was very awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of takes us all the way back to Croatia in 1 year.
Yeah, that's our loop.
Let's just kind of talk about, we're 45 minutes in or so, but for the next 15 to 20 minutes or so, we can probably talk about just the things that are different and the things that are the same, the things that you may or may not expect about traveling in Europe.
Yeah, so based on those countries, like one of my first things I wrote down here are the roads.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the roads, they're different in every country, but Eastern Europe specifically have some pretty
need some work.
wacky roads.
Especially countries like Montenegro, where they don't have highway systems, and their coastal roads, it's not made for 2 cars, but somehow we did it.
Well, okay, so the new countries that have either just joined the European Union or the ones that aren't in the European Union yet, like Montenegro and Albania and Serbia. Well, actually, Serbia had really great highways.
Yeah.
But Montenegro, Albania specifically have just super narrow, very disorganized, some places borderline scary roads because they're narrow. They're not really designed for cross, like, two-way traffic.
Now you admit they're scary. You want to admit they're scary when we're on them. You're like, it's fine, it's fine.
Relatively speaking. Everything is relative. So yeah, we had some pretty sketchy roads. I mean, definitely happy that we switched to the van.
Yeah.
Really
sure.
glad we're not in the truck camper. Forget it with the Airstream.
No way.
That is no way, Jose.
It's so much better not to have a trailer in North America, but here...
Any kind of trailer.
But here, no.
No.
Don't do it. Figure out how to live in just a drivable small thing.
Yeah, and even our van is really long. Our van is like 23 feet. It's almost 7 meters long, and it's considered one of the longer vehicles everywhere we go.
Yeah,
so the locals are like Europeans. They strive for having something like under 6 meters. You know, that really makes a big difference when you go places too, because a lot of places charge the ferries and bridges and tolls. They charge more for if you're over 6 meters, if you're over like 2.5 meters tall, or certain places. It's different every country, but you know, unfortunately we're taller and longer than a lot of the upper limits of these places. So we paid more toll, we paid more ferry fees, and we paid more bridge, fees because of our size. But still, yeah, way better than it would have been if it was a vehicle with a trailer. And also, Europe has this. All of European Union have this. They have this rule about 3.5 tons. So basically, a ton is 1,000 kilos, and 1,000 kilos is like 2,200 pounds or something like that. So 3.5 tons. That's about 7,000, a little over 7,000 pounds or so. You need a different driver's license. You need like basically a commercial driver's license to drive anything that's heavier than 3.5 tons. So most people, they strive for under 6 meters, and they also try to push right to the limit of 3.5 tons because, you can't really get very much space. So when you think about why Europeans have such small vehicles, it's not because they don't like the space. It's because they are big RVs here too. But so many hoops you have to jump through. Not just the small roads, but it's also the expensive tolls and ferries, and also special driver's license. And all that costs money and takes effort. So all of that, compared to the U.S., you have a driver's license that you get when you're 16 years old. You want to drive a 20-ton garbage truck? Go for it, as long as it's for personal use, which is crazy. But we have big roads. I think for the most part, it's not more dangerous to drive in the U.S. as it is in Europe. But compared to some countries, though, like the drivers are different. In Istanbul, there were some crazy drivers. I think in Croatia, there are some crazy drivers, aggressive drivers.
Germany really likes to follow the rules.
Germany is all about following rules.
They have something called the zipper.
Yeah. Blew our mind when we first saw it. I mean, it makes total sense, and I wish people just, like, this is just something that people should do, but Germany is like a thing. Is when you're merging two lanes into one. You know, the guy on the lane merging to the lane that's going straight, it just makes sense that you alternate. One car goes, and then the car goes behind. So the person behind that doesn't try to cut the next person off. They just leave room for that person to go. And if there's room for that person to go, the guy who's behind the merging person doesn't try to skip in there and try to jam themselves in there too. No, you go one at a time. And they call it the zipper. The zipper.
Awesome.
And if you think about it, it's exactly how a zipper works. Because if you try to jam two little sections into one gap in a zipper, the whole thing, the zipper breaks.
People will see things.
Yeah. People will see things that they don't want to see. So, love the zipper. Love the rule following in Germany. But,
the second we left Germany and somebody didn't zipper, we almost got in a car accident.
Yeah.
Because somebody was at
They're
a-hole.
doing the a-hole move, trying to like zip in.
Yeah.
No, not zip in. You got to do the zipper. So, yeah, it's very different driving around. That's another big difference too. Is in the U.S., of course, every state have their own little thing. Everybody has like their own unique thing. Even from city to city, they may be different, but the differences between European countries are so much greater from country to country, not just because of the language, right? Obviously, there's lots of languages. In some places, you have, you know, a small country with only like 1 million people, and every border of their country speaks another language. So that's obviously a difference, and then the cultural difference and all that. But yeah. It makes United States seems very homogenized. You know, to be able to go from California to New York to Maine
because
to
they're states,
Washington.
they're not countries. But it's just such a similar size. It's hard for us Americans not to compare it.
Well,
that
right.
way.
But I mean, you know, it's states, not countries, but they were different countries at one point. You know? California was part of Mexico, and Louisiana was part of France. So they're colonies.
Yeah.
They're colonies. So we're unified by the language. And now and also since, you know, a little over 200 years ago, we're unified by the country. So yeah, so that's why it's much easier to me to travel around the United States, Canada, and even Mexico. You know, Mexico is pretty big. Mexico, United States, Canada, when you drive through these three countries, at most, you come across 3 languages, with like Quebec being like a French-speaking area of Canada. But really, it's like Spanish, English, and a little bit of French. That's it, in this huge area. But Europe, so many different languages. And lucky for us, the language that all the travelers speak, regardless what country you're from, is English, which is super, super handy. A lot of people ask us, how do we deal with languages? But, you know, Marlene speaks Croatian. We can understand some Spanish. We can understand some French. And everywhere we go, we try to pick up a little bit here and there. If we're only there for like a couple weeks, it's a little harder. We learn like how to say thank you like the day before we leave, basically. But what's really fortunate for Americans and probably Australians, British people, is if there are 2 people that don't speak the same language from their home country, they speak English to each other. You know, and for those 2 people, they may both speak English at a mediocre level, but that's what they speak. So for us English speakers, it's super, super easy to travel all around Europe. The only exception being a country like Poland, I think, because Poland shares such a long border with Germany, and Germany being one of the bigger countries in Europe and one of the countries that have more travelers probably than any other country in Europe that go everywhere. So it seems like in Poland, Polish people, they speak Polish, and if they don't speak Polish, most likely they speak German before they speak English, just because they deal with a lot of Germans that come through. So that was the only place where we sort of, had some challenge speaking, but even then we'll come across young people that speak English that can help out.
You always have Google Translate, which we rarely use, but it's there.
Google Translate, we rarely use on a person-to-person basis, but we use it all the time to look stuff up.
Right.
So that's, Google Translate's gotten really, really good. I'm sure if you travel to places that speak different languages, you use it. So let's see. What's next on our list? We have cell data. Cell data has been... It's worked out pretty well for us, I think, because when we were in Croatia last, we decided to sign up for a postpaid cell phone plan in Croatia because we're residents, and we were able to set up a bank account here in Croatia, and that allowed us to get a postpaid cell phone plan that's unlimited in Croatia, but now European Union countries and EEA countries have this roam like home law where they have to allow you to roam without charging you a hefty fee. So when we go to all these European Union countries, we can use our Croatian phone, which is super handy because it may not be the cheapest option. We might be able to find a cell phone SIM card, a prepaid one that's super cheap, but until we get to the store to buy that, we need a way to get around. We need a way to look up stuff. So just having a few gigs of data initially really helps out.
Because a few times, like when we entered Albania and Montenegro and Turkey, we didn't have any cell phone data, and it was so stressful to not have
especially
anything.
Especially when we're in Turkey, we drove straight into Istanbul.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And this is also why I stress that it's important for me to have a GPS that allows me to have offline maps. Mm-hmm. So Google Maps lets you do that now. And also Maps.me does it, but I also still have a Garmin GPS. I still keep it around for a couple of features that I like, and that being one of them, offline maps. So data-wise, we've actually been doing pretty good. There's a few countries where we got prepaid SIM cards that we didn't, that we used our Croatian plan. Our Croatian plan is unlimited in Croatia, and outside of Croatia, it's 10 gigabytes per month. And it's like a family plan, so it came with 4 lines. So we actually have 40 gigs, which if we conserve, we can make it work. We just can't upload YouTube videos and do a ton of Instagram stories and stuff. So when you see us not sharing a lot of stuff on YouTube and doing a lot of Instagram stories, it's because we probably didn't have a lot of data to use.
Or our friends are here.
or there's a lot of
social stuff.
Yeah, socializing. But we did get some prepaid data plans in some countries, specifically a couple. Romania, we found out that in Romania, you can get a super cheap prepaid plan. It was €6 for 30 days, and it came with 60 gigabytes, which was ridiculously cheap. And, the kids, they kind of get used to not having internet, so it's okay. When it's time to play your video games or whatever, you have to play video games on your devices that don't take internet, or watch movies and videos that we load onto like SD cards. They get used to that, but when we have an opportunity to give them a little bit more, like, hey, you can play some like video games online with your friends or watch some YouTube, we let them do that. So in Romania, we did that because it was so cheap. We got them SIM cards for like 40. I don't know how many do we get. Everybody got SIM cards for like 30 for like €30. We all got SIM cards, and we all got 60 gigs, and we were only there for like 2 weeks, so we couldn't even use them. And not only did we get 60 gigs, there was a promo where they send you a text, and it's okay, if you log on and create an account at our website, we'll give you an additional 60 gigs.
It was crazy.
So I got 120 gigs. I didn't even get through my first 60. So that was crazy.
But you shouldn't.
Yeah, no, I mean
You
you can't do that. So that's one place we did it, and the second place we did it is we knew that our cell phone may not work in Norway, but turned out that it did because Norway is not part of the EU, but it is part of the EEA, the European Economic Area. So it did work. But what I wanted to do in Scandinavia, and if you watch my YouTube videos on mollymish.com/vlog or youtube.com/mollymish, is from Stockholm, and as we were driving north into Norway and all the way down and around back into Germany, I decided that I was going to daily vlog. So I shot, edited, and uploaded a video every day. And in order for that to work, I needed to have more internet. So what enabled that to work is Finland. Finland has this plan from their cell phone company Elisa. Their prepaid plan is called Saunalahti. They have a €30 a month plan that is truly unlimited through all the Nordic countries and all the Baltic countries. So Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, Finland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark. These 7 countries, truly unlimited. So we got 2 phone lines there. Marlene and I each got one, and then we were able to hotspot the kids, because we didn't really do a lot of like cultural stuff per se. It was just wilderness, out at the beach, in the mountains, doing hikes, and in the forest and stuff like that. So when we came back to relax, we let the kids, watch a little video or play some games. But that worked out really well because I think just from uploading the videos, there are a couple gigabytes a day, and over the course of 30 days, it was 60 gigabytes without using anything else. So,
but cell phone data-wise, we were talking about being residents of Croatia, and that's kind of special to us. But there are plans like that, like in the UK and France, that also have it.
Yeah,
that you can do a prepaid kind of deal where you can roam around and actually have even more data than
we've
Croatia
actually considered giving up the one that we have in Croatia for one or the other ones that we've looked into. France has one. It's a prepaid plan. It's like 25, maybe 15 or 20 euros a month, and it's 25 gigs, unlimited in France, and then 25 gigs when you're out, and it's even more countries. So the catch with that one is it's hard to cancel. You can put on like a auto pay, which is great, but if you want to cancel, you have to physically write a letter and put it in snail mail, and that's how you cancel. So we don't know if we're going to do that. We might, but if we leave Croatia with our plans still, then we have to physically be in Croatia to cancel our phone. But we don't want to leave Croatia without a plan and not know if we're going to get a good one when we get there. So we don't know if we're going to do that yet.
And for you wondering, why do these people need so much internet? Well, we do work, and we do school,
stuff like this.
and we do social media stuff. So
I think if you're listening to our podcast now, I hope that you know that we need internet for all this content that we create to get out there. Yeah, and we do work. We're not independently wealthy. We have multiple income streams, some of them passive, some active, but most of them require some kind of internet connection. So, we can't just be off-grid. So cell phone data, that's how we kind of get by. And I suspect the next couple of years that we're still in Europe, we're going to continue to do something similar. It doesn't seem very expensive. It's totally, affordable, relative speaking. Like it's probably at about the same, maybe even cheaper than how much we pay in the U.S.
I think so.
Camping, we
try to wild camp as much as we can.
Yeah, I would say, just off the top of my head, ballpark, we probably pay, and this is not campgrounds per se, this is paying to stay somewhere. Some of them are just parking meters.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are like entrance fees to like a national park to get in.
Mm-hmm.
Including those types of paid camping, we probably pay 2 to 3 nights a month in places like that. So 10%, less than 10% of our time is spent at paid campground. So that's very little, but that's also because we weren't in these super, super crazy, popular, busy places this last summer. Even though Norway is a pretty popular place to be in the summer, Scandinavian countries have this kind of freedom to roam, like policy.
Yeah.
What do they call it?
It's like not no man's land, but every man's land.
Every man's land, right. So even private property, as long as you're within a certain distance and you're
not blocking anybody.
Yeah, you're not blocking anybody.
Infringing on anybody.
And you're polite, you can camp anywhere. So in Norway, we didn't pay to camp anywhere except for, like I said, a couple places where we had to pay to get past the toll gate.
Mm.
In Germany, there were a lot of parking lots that were designed for RVs. They have coin-operated water, coin-operated electricity, and then they just have a little whole sewer dump. Everybody have cassette toilets, and you just dump that in there. So I think maybe at one in Emstetten, Germany, we paid like 12 euros for a couple nights right after we got the decals put on and the new awning installed. And that was it. That's only really because, we had driven a long ways to get down to Germany and we wanted to chill for a little bit. But yeah, other than that, we don't pay for a lot of camping. And kind of goes with how we travel in the U.S. too.
Yeah, we're boondocking.
We boondock. Exactly. And here they call it wild camping. In Croatia, wild camping is not allowed during the high season. And we kind of came into a little bit of that when we came back. These last couple of weeks when we left Austria, came down to Italy, and then came along the coast, we had initially wanted to spend a night or two in northern Croatia along the coast and try to find a place to camp. But campgrounds are so expensive in Europe. Not everywhere. Like, I think last winter, a couple places in Albania, a couple places in Greece or Romania, Bulgaria, they were relatively inexpensive because it was kind of off season, so they were charging like a flat fee, 10, 15, 20 euros at most. But during the high season, they charge, everything is a la carte, including people. So you pay a certain fee that includes 2 adults, and then you have to pay a certain fee if you have a camper, you have to pay a certain fee if you have a tent. And then every additional person, adult or child, you pay another per person fee. And then you may pay a per use fee for electricity and water. And sometimes on top of that, you pay for shower.
It's so much.
It's nickel and diming. It's crazy nickel and diming.
It's like $55 in Croatia if we wanted to camp. And you can get
probably.
You can get an Airbnb in most of these countries for way cheaper than to stay at a campground. I think they just campgrounds is these people's vacation, so we can charge whatever. But we're not on vacation.
They're charging for the experience, right? They're thinking like, these people want to camp. They want to be here. We're going to charge whatever we want. This is also, Croatia has this mentality like, we're going to make all of our money in the summer and then we're dead the rest of the time. So we're going to rake it all in while we can. So because of that, too, the government cracks down super hard on people that are just parked in a parking lot. Even though you're allowed to park a car overnight, they will find people sleeping in their cars. And we read all these reviews on this Park for Night app that we use in Europe. 7 a.m., all these places, police knocks on the door of all the campers. Everybody get 1,000 kuna fine, which is like $150.
Yeah. Which some people I read online that they get for 3 months in Croatia wild camping, and you're just kind of out of the way. You don't have any chairs or anything out. But if you're like together with a bunch of other campers, you could be screwed.
Right. And all these people that are getting fined, they write a review about it, but they probably don't say, and they're probably embarrassed to say, if they were cooking outside, having their awnings out, having their chairs out, because after all, they are here during the high season when the weather's super hot and it's really nice.
Yeah.
They probably are just hanging out outside, and that's not cool,
Yeah, because there's a difference in Europe between camping and parking. If you're in looks like your van is in driving mode, like things can be open but only on the roof side, so like a skylight or a vent, but your windows on the side can't be open. You can't have leveling blocks.
Right.
Nothing else.
You basically have to look like you're parked and nobody's in, even though you're allowed to sleep inside.
In a lot of places that's legal. That's not camping. Camping is when you start taking your crap out.
Right. And I don't know if there's a name for that or what the hard and fast rule is, if it's written down anywhere. But that's the general idea, is that you got to look like a car who's parked there. So when we read reviews like that, then, we're wondering, what are they doing? Are they doing stuff that's causing people to, call the police to come over? Or are the police just like, oh, this is payday. Like, we're going to show up at 7 a.m. because that's when we know they're all going to still be there. They haven't woken up and gotten out of there yet. Because all these reviews, they all say 7 a.m., 7 a.m., 7 a.m. And then we talk to some of our local friends and, oh, yeah, this is what their police chief tells them to go out there and, get some money.
Yeah, I don't know.
So for us, we thought, well, okay, so you just get out. You leave before 7. You got to wake up super early, get the kids out of bed, strap them in their seatbelts while they're still sleeping.
It's not fun.
It's not fun. But or you just don't have your stuff out, and then when they knock on the door, don't open.
Or don't camp where other people are camping. It's a popular spot, but like we were thinking about going to a soccer stadium where a bunch of people would park together, and that's not cool.
But it's all like the good spots near the water.
Yeah.
Right. So if you can camp somewhere else where it's not spots near the water, then you'll be fine. So yeah, that's camping, but I think it's Spain follows. I think Spain sticks closer to the rule of no leveling blocks, no stuff.
Camping versus parking.
Yeah. I mean, this last week, so we were in Split for a week while we went to the police station and renewed my paperwork, and then we did, some more stuff, like got health care for the kids. We got local health care for the kids and renew some health care for ourselves. Visited some friends and family, and then Marlene's parents are still here. They've been here since April, so they're doing kind of a construction project in the village house on the island of Far. So they're going to be here until sometime in November probably. But their apartment in Split is kind of small for all of us and them to all be there. So we got a super convenient spot right outside the apartment, but it's on a busy intersection. It's kind of on the sidewalk where everybody park. But the rule here is if it doesn't say no parking, you can park there as long as a handicapped person in the wheelchair can still get by. Mm-hmm. And every car can still get in and out. So we had probably the only spot. It was open when we got there. Super lucky. So we parked there. Ridiculously unlevel. Like, it's not just front to back. It's front to back and side to side.
You're rolling into me a little bit too much.
No, I think I was on the low side. You were rolling into me.
You're rolling uphill then.
Yeah. But we slept in it the whole week. We wait till it's dark, and then we come down. We just kind of casually walk by like, we're just people walking. And then when no one's around, we open the door really quick, jump in, shut the door. And then we, cover up all the windows. Nobody sees we're in here. And we slept in there. We play it cool. We could have, you can get a ticket, just like what Marlene was saying. If you just park when other people are not sleeping, then you're good. But I also think that a lot of these places that people are getting ticketed are free parking places. And if you're at a paid parking place, maybe they don't hassle you as much as long as you're paying.
Maybe, yeah.
So, anyways, that's the whole European camping / parking free stuff. We did pretty good. I feel like we did pretty good. One other thing that we were concerned with before we came here is we have an American-style propane bottle. And it's a 10-pound or 11-pound bottle. So, the first couple refills that we did, as I said earlier, before we got the the diesel heater in Romania, we were in the winter. We had to use it. That runs off of propane. And our small bottle just went pretty fast. When we came to Croatia last year, when the van came off of the ship in Belgium, the propane was empty. It had to be empty before we loaded it onto the boat. So we had no propane until we came all the way to Croatia. We got a little portable camp stove that we still have that we use as a backup, like a little camping canister. And we waited until Croatia had to fill. Luckily, we found a place that fills it, like maybe 30, 40 minutes outside of Split. We had it filled. We just went there again, like 3 days ago, and had it filled there again. But in all, we've had it filled 4 times total. Is it 5 including this last one?
I think so, yeah. We just did
5
our 5th
including
one.
this last one. 2 of them were outside of Split at this one place. And then after we left Split the first time, we had it filled in Thessaloniki.
Yeah, at an RV store. They had a connection somewhere in town.
At Campeda's RV store.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we had the new fridge shipped to when we got there. When we left Albania, rushed over there to get the fridge before we went to Turkey. It was empty. It was totally empty because we were running the heater and we were cooking, and they had somebody come and pick it up to go fill it, and they brought it back. So we filled it once there, and then after we left, we went to Turkey and came back to Greece, and then we did sort of a loop around mainland Greece. We ended up at a marina in Kalamata in the Peloponnesus, and there was like this maintenance security guard guy there at the marina where you can camp. You can pay like 10 euros or something, and you can camp there, and they have showers and bathrooms that you can use, which is super convenient. And it wasn't empty yet, but he said that he could fill for us. He had to take it away, so it was 15 euros, and we gave him a €5 tip for doing the legwork. And I think he probably, I don't know, I think it was probably a third full. And then after we left there, we used it. Didn't use it too much. We're probably not that empty again the next time we filled, but we felt like we had to fill again before we got into Norway because we had stocked up all these groceries and we weren't going to cook. I mean, we weren't going to eat out. We were going to only cook.
Right, we're worried.
So we didn't want to run out of propane. So we filled again in Brasov, Romania. And all these places that we went to, they had adapters for our American bottle.
Yeah, nobody...
Which is super surprising.
Nobody gave us any Yeah,
we hadn't been to a propane place where they said we can't fill it.
Yeah. The thing is, propane here, like we call it LPG in the States, but their LPG here, the P doesn't stand for propane.
Right.
So it's confusing.
Instead of liquid propane gas, the LPG here is liquid petroleum gas. Their liquid petroleum gas is because they have a lot of vehicles that are converted to run off of propane or petroleum gas, which is a mixture of propane and butane. And for those of you that understand the difference, it's basically a lower pressure versus higher pressure. And, it's not it uses a different regulator if you're going to use butane versus propane. So you can't really just use the same fittings and same equipment. So some people have used it. Some people have used the automotive LPG for cooking, without too much hassle. But, generally speaking, it's not recommended, especially if you have like a absorption style refrigerator where it burns propane. So we have only gotten like regular cooking gas propane.
That we know of.
And it hasn't been much of a problem. So we also didn't know what getting water is like. In the United States, we had bigger water tanks. Like our four-wheel camper had a 20-gallon water tank, and the Casita had a 15-gallon water tank, and the Airstream had a 40-gallon water tank. And when we had the Casita and the Airstream, we had a 40-gallon, we had a 20 plus 15, 35, and then we carried 2 7-gallon or 6-gallon jugs.
Casita and the four-wheel, yeah.
Yeah, Casita and four-wheel. So we had 35 plus 12. So we had a ton of water everywhere we went. So we didn't really have to refill water a lot.
What glampers we were.
I know. Living it up. In the Airstream, we had a shower. Hot shower.
Inside.
And an oven? Oven? Come on. No such luxury nowadays. But we were just able to fill up water at campgrounds. We camped at Elks Lodges a lot and Moose Lodges in the U.S. in places where campgrounds are either full or kind of expensive. So we became Elks Lodge and Moose Lodge members for that purpose. And usually they have like a hose there for us to fill. We didn't know what the situation was going to be like in Europe. And, we didn't know, like, going to campgrounds. You could do it. A lot of people do that. But what we found out that we do a lot of, too, is just going to gas stations, especially in Norway. We went to gas stations a lot because a lot of these gas stations, the gas stations have become part of the RV infrastructure in Europe, where you have, like in the U.S., where you get the water, it's really like water for your radiator. So it comes out of like this rubber tip, thing next to the air pump. But the water in the gas stations in Norway, they're just regular spigots with hoses attached to them. And some of them are super fancy because it's super cold in the winter, but they have to use them year-round. So they have a separate room that's built into the building that's not part of the building, but it's also not outside, that can be heated with heater and air conditioning, so it doesn't freeze. The water doesn't freeze, so they can use it year round. So you open a little like a little door,
outdoor cubby.
Yeah, and all the stuff is in there. So that's how we've been filling our water. And Germany, there's some coin operated water.
When we're in like Eastern Europe, there was a lot of spring water on the side of the road where people fill up their just for free.
Yeah, we've done that in Greece. We've done that in Romania, Bulgaria.
Yeah.
They're usually in like older parts of town and or small villages where people have been using that water to fill for ages. So yeah, we've not used that a lot. I can probably count in one hand how many times we've filled up water that way.
I felt like more, but maybe.
Maybe I'll throw like a couple more fingers in with my other hand.
How about just the middle finger? I'm right, you're wrong.
So 7 times basically is what I'm saying. Okay, so water, not too different. The one difference is the hoses are different. The fittings and the shower heads, the sprays, the thread on the water hose, it's totally different. It's a fine thread and not a coarse thread, even though it's about the same diameter as the thread that you would have on a hose in the US, but it's a fine thread. So you can try to jam it onto like a coarse thread spigot, but you'll strip the threads. So with our water system, when I had to like do some modifications, I had to change everything up because all my U.S. size, it's imperial inches, and then all the stuff you buy here is in metric and millimeters. All that stuff had to change. So my worries now is like, okay, when we go back to the U.S. in a couple of years, something breaks, I'm not going to find the parts that I'm using here in the U.S. Now I have to switch everything back over to the U.S. style. So it's either commit to switching at some point or buy a bunch of spares here before we leave. So that's the difference with water. Where you get it, how it comes out of the faucet. Gas stations, of course, gas is more expensive. Diesel is much, much, much more common. We didn't have any problems filling up our diesel truck, and we've only ever had one gas vehicle since we started traveling 11 years ago. Our first van, the GMC Savannah, was basically a Chevy Express 2500, but a GMC version. It was a 6.7 Duramax diesel, and the next truck we got when we went up to Alaska was a Ford F-250, a 2015 Ford F-250. The Duramax is 6.6. I'm sorry, and then the Ford Power Stroke was a 6.7. And then after that Ford is when we switched the truck camper and went to Mexico, and that's when we switched to a gas truck to be able to do all of Mexico. And then after we sold the truck and we got the Sprinter, of course, the Sprinter is diesel again. So we have a lot of experience driving diesels in North America and now in Europe. Every gas station has diesel, if not two kinds of diesel.
Right. You got to make a choice.
Yeah, so it's just like you have 87, 89, 92 octane in the U.S. for gasoline, and you may only have one diesel if you have diesel at all. Here you have usually like 93 and 95 octane gasoline, usually more expensive. And then you have like diesel and then like super diesel or something. I don't really know if I see the difference between the different diesels.
Have you ever splurged, Dan?
Yeah, but there's just so many. I have splurged, but there's so many, sometimes not on purpose. Sometimes I've pumped it afterwards and knew that, oh, crap, I just put the expensive diesel in. But you know what? At least I didn't put gasoline in.
Right. Good job, Dan.
Yeah. So I can't tell the difference just because there's so many factors. Like I'm never carrying the same amount of weight. Either I have a lot of water or no water, or we're carrying a lot of food or not a lot of food. If there's a headwind, not a headwind, if we're going fast or highway or slow roads. So I can't tell. There probably is a difference, but I can't tell. So, but it's obviously more expensive. And what we've noticed is that some, you come here with this mindset of like dollars per gallon. That's how much you pay. Like, oh, $1.99 per gallon, which, I know it's more expensive now, but I remember it getting low as $1.99 a gallon within the last 3 or 4 years in Texas or wherever. And here, it's euros per liter. And if you go to a country that's not using euros, it's whatever their currency is per liter. And not only do you have to convert the currency to dollars in your head, and then you got to multiply the liters by 3.785, which is how many liters is to a gallon. So you do that for a while, and then after a while you realize, well, let's just get used to the price here. Like 1.1, 1.2 euros per liter is cheap for Europe. It's not cheap for the U.S. That's probably like $4 and something a gallon for diesel. And then 1.3, 1.4 euros and higher is more expensive. So now, we've actually, I don't know about you, but I've actually gotten my mind around into saying 1.2. Is there anything lower than 1.2 euros per liter? So what we found out is like there's a lot of cheaper gas in Germany, but not on the Autobahn. Get off the Autobahn, go to one of the side roads. There's Germany has its own kind of gas app. It's called like Fuel something. They have a Germany only kind of like Gas Buddy we use in the U.S. In Germany, they have one. There's some other ones in other countries, but there's not one like gas app that's for all of Europe, which kind of sucks.
Yeah.
I really like having Gas Buddy in the U.S. to be able to find out where to get gas. So, but what we know is Norway's expensive. Austria is cheaper than parts of Germany, and Luxembourg is super cheap
for gas
and diesel. So Croatia is right in the middle. So that's gas. What's another weird thing is I remember the first month when we first came here last year from Belgium all the way to Croatia. Everywhere we went, people came out and pumped our gas. I don't know when it stopped. Somewhere outside of Croatia, after we left Croatia, it stopped. I started pumping my own. And ever since then, we went through Germany and Austria and Croatia, northern Croatia again. No one's pumped my gas. I've pumped my own gas this whole time. I wonder if it's because last year when we drove through, I just looked so lost when I got out of the car.
Look at this poor man.
Oh, man, we got to help him. He needs help. Somebody comes out, pumps my gas. No, I pump my own gas.
Yeah.
So I think some countries maybe require it still. Like Belgium, I think everybody was getting their gas pumped by an attendant. So, gas, yeah. That's probably one of the big expenses.
Which is why we change vehicles.
Yeah.
And it's helped a lot.
Driving a lot. I don't know how many miles we've driven, but I would guess we did over 10,000 miles I don't know how many more over 10,000. Probably between 10,000 and 15,000, which is not a ton of miles when you think about how many people drive. Like a normal car lease is 12,000 miles, and if you're a commuter and you lease a car, usually that's not enough. So I think 10 to 15,000 miles for the kind of traveling that we do and the number of miles that we drive is not too bad.
No, but it felt like we drove too much this summer. We pushed ourselves too hard, and I really hope next year we slow down a little bit.
Well, that's why, I think when we go to Spain and Morocco this winter, I want to go back to how we used to do in the U.S., where we go to a place and find a nice place where we can park. And we may end up staying in campgrounds more because of that. Because when we stay in campgrounds, we feel more comfortable leaving the car behind and just walking somewhere.
And there's more van theft and break-ins in Western Europe than there are in Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
So
because it's more popular and there's more people. And if you're a thief, you're going to go to a country where there's people with more money to steal from, I guess. That's the way I look at it. And then people tend to agree when I talk to them about stuff like this.
They don't want to disagree with you in person, maybe. Just talk behind your back.
Talk
or on their own podcast. You know that one Dan guy from Molly Mish?
Always spewing stupid stuff. But I think that's what we'll do. We'll if we can get I think places where it's cheap, like Morocco, if we're going to be there for a month and a half or whatever, we can just stay. We'll go to 6 places and we'll spend a week at each one. If we can get a good rate for a weekly rate at a convenient place where we can walk to town, then we'll just do that.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to doing that. Slowing down, driving less, and seeing more of the same places. Especially now that we've decided, initially we thought 2 years in Europe, and now that we're thinking maybe 3 years. So if we're going to give ourselves an extra year to see more Europe, we can slow down and see more of the places that we go. Like a month in Norway was a long time, but we saw a lot of different places in Norway. We didn't stay in one place. I think the longest we stayed maybe was 3 nights.
I think we needed 2 months in Norway.
Yeah. We could have easily spent 2 months in Norway, but we had to do caravan salon in Germany. Okay, so we don't have a shower, obviously, in our van. If you guys know what our van setup looks like. If not, go check out our van build series on not on Instagram. Well, we have it on. Yeah, it's a highlight.
Yeah, it's a highlight, but
scroll pretty far back.
It's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. We didn't build a shower because we needed the extra space. We prefer to have the extra space instead. But we do have an outdoor shower, the road shower, which has an American-style coarse thread on the spigot. So what I did is I took the existing hose that has the American-style coarse thread, and I cut the hose off in the middle and used one of the European quick attach things that when I put the end onto that. So I essentially converted it to a European style using half of a hose. So with that, I'm able to fill. I'm able to use it to shower and spray and all that. So that's how we shower sometimes, but we haven't really been in any place where the water got hot enough, because we were in Scandinavia. We avoided the super, super hot summer. But the places where we have done some showering with warm water, we've done it by just heating water up on the stove. And then we keep a couple of bottles around. So every now and then, we'll splurge and buy a iced tea in a plastic bottle, which is kind of sucks. But they're not one-use plastic because we reuse them.
Right.
So we take a couple of these and then we buy the powder iced tea, and then we mix it with water and make more iced tea out of the same bottle. Or once that's all done, we take the bottle and then we use it to shower. So we heat up water in the stove, we fill it into these water bottles, and then basically with 2 bottles, and they're usually between 1.5 liters to 2 liters each, we take a 3 to 4 liter shower, like a gallon, a little less than a gallon we shower. And that's been working out pretty good because you can heat up that amount of water pretty easily.
Yeah, it doesn't use that much propane.
Yeah. So shower's been pretty good. And there's some gas stations that have showers too that we found.
Yeah, some free, some pretty cheap.
One free one was like you have to pay me a couple euros to clean when you're done, but it's free otherwise. So showers haven't really been a problem, but campgrounds are fine. In Germany, there's lots and lots of public swimming pools, and it's really cheap. I think we pay like 11 euros for all 5 of us to go swim, but then it was like 11 euros. We pay more for that for a gas station shower in the U.S. Yeah. This one, we get swimming free on top of that, so that's pretty cool. So shower hasn't been a really issue, and if we're up at the beach too, we'll just go dip in the water. Or if we're near a lake, we'll go swim in the lake. The usual van stuff. So, let's see. Issues. What do you mean by issues in this outline?
I don't know what I meant.
You have issues?
I have issues.
Are you dealing with some issues? Have we had any issues, maybe like run-ins with police or
we had
tickets or anything?
Somebody knock once on our van. It was while we were wild camping in Turkey with friends, and they asked, it was like a passport check. But that's like...
Oh, in Turkey?
In Turkey. When we were with Liv...
Oh, in Cappadocia.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rose
you're right.
Valley. Rose something.
So that, okay, but we were also pulled over on a back road once in Montenegro.
Oh, with a little stop sign, yeah. And they the whole check.
Yep.
And another one for a vignette in Bulgaria.
Right.
And that went fine.
Yeah.
So no real problems.
Some countries, you have to buy like a vignette, which is basically like a toll pass. It's either a sticker you stick on your window, or a lot of these are e-vignettes where you just hold on to your receipt and they have you in the system. And when you drive, they scan your car. And then, or sometimes, the countries that don't have that, they'll pull you over and you have to show. So yeah, we were pulled over once for that. That's not a big deal. But also I think we are a European looking car. Mm-hmm. So we don't, as we drive quickly past, people don't really think about it. And then also when they see California license plate, I think it could go either way. Some of them may like, oh, we got to pull them over to see what's up with that. Or some might say, that's not worth it.
It's too much trouble.
We don't know what kind of paperwork they're going to have. Let's not deal with it. So they just let us go. Seems like it anyways.
Yeah.
So, yeah, hasn't really been something that we seriously think has, been a bother whatsoever. Over this last year, then, what kind of changes have we made to the van?
Well, we upgraded our awning because when we bought our awning in the U.S., it was the wrong size delivered to us, and we didn't want to deal with it, so we just stuck it on just so we'd have something.
Yeah, it was really weird because it was on Amazon. They have either the 8.5 feet awning or the 10 feet awning, and then when you added the 10 feet awning to your cart, it showed up as 8.5 feet in the cart, and then vice versa. So then I was like, I don't want to order the 10 feet and pay the 10 feet price and get the 8.5. I would rather pay the 8.5 feet price and then get the 10. But if it comes in the 8.5, I'll just deal with the shorter awning because we only really wanted it to cover our door when it's open so the sun doesn't come in to block some sun or maybe block some rain. But what we didn't notice is that the shorter awnings have shorter legs. Yeah. And the van being so tall, that short awning, the legs didn't reach the ground. So every time we used it, we had to find rocks or something to jack it up taller so it reached the ground. So that was a pain. But, we were able to get a new awning from Dometic when we came to Germany about a month ago. So that worked out really good. Now we have this perfect, awesome awning that works even better than the last one. It's smooth. And the legs are long. It's positioned, so it covers the door even more. Mm-hmm. So we're super happy with this one. So we changed that. But we would have done it right the first time had we had the opportunity. As I mentioned earlier, I've changed the plumbing situation. I reconfigured it a few times just to try to, fine-tune it. We have 3 7-gallon Reliance Aquatainers. If you guys know what those are, they're kind of the blue cubes. And they have like the opening has like a reversible spout. You can turn it on its side and it can become like a little water spout, pour water out. But we use those for water, fresh water and gray. 3 of those for fresh, 1 for gray, 2 go under the sink next to the one that's a gray, and then like a third fresh one stores in the back. So at the beginning, it was like water going into one jug, and then the other freshwater jug just sits next to it on standby. When it's full, I got to go in there and switch the thing. And it became like a hassle. And then also the way that it twists on, it was kind of a pain. You have to like spin the jug to get the thing to come off because the hose that went in there didn't spin, and it's really messy. Water splashes out. So lots and lots of trips to the hardware store. Later, I was able to piece together a way to kind of use their quick connect fittings and then also to pull water out of both jugs at the same time. So that worked out really well until just a couple weeks. Recently, I noticed that, there's water leaking into the system because it's not pulling water out fast. And then I noticed that the plastic lid, the plastic, twist-on lid had cracked because the fitting that I was using to connect the water feed tube into the aquatainer was a metal thread, and it was threaded into a plastic thread of the lid, and it had cracked the lid. So I'm doing another change where I'm just changing out these kind of threads, and I'm just going to shove a diameter nylon hose of the proper size, so there's no hard metal threads to break anything. So we've done that. Water as an upgrade too. What else have we done?
Well, we did a heater upgrade.
Yeah.
Which we got a bigger heater than we wanted. Also, off Amazon was backordered like crazy, and so we had
to get something
bigger heater that's pulling too much propane. So we switched to diesel. We got new tires, which ended up not being a problem.
Yeah.
You got a PLB 40
lithium
battery
bank, which is awesome because it's 40 amp hours of lithium iron phosphate battery. And I can charge my computer through USB-C using a cigarette lighter plug, and that's what it has. So there's no AC/DC conversion loss, and I can use it to charge my computer like 4 or 5 times. But when I drive, I just plug it into the cigarette lighter, and it charges it in like 30 minutes during drive day. So that's worked out really good because I don't want to have to worry about the house battery draining because my computer's plugged in. Now with this, it's super, super easy. And I can even just like take it into like a coffee shop and charge it in there while I'm working there. So having that as like a computer charging option has been really good.
Another quick change is, don't laugh, but we have 2 little toilets now instead of 1. Like we showed up to Europe with our old cat who passed away, and next to our toilet was her litter box. And after she passed away, of course, we got rid of her litter box and we had empty space next to our toilet. So we got 2 toilets, which extended our wild camping.
Yeah, our toilet is it holds 5 gallons of waste. That's 5 people, 5 gallons, and me and Luca are the only ones that pee outside, basically, when it's possible. Mm-hmm. So we have at least 3 people going number 1 and 2 into the toilet, basically full time. And then me and Luca use it also for whenever it's not possible. So 5 gallon fills up pretty fast. And the reason why we got that second toilet the first time is actually because our first toilet broke. Then we had to buy a second one. Or actually, no, we got one from Dometic because we had a Dometic toilet. They sent us a second toilet while we're still in Thessaloniki, which worked out really good. And then instead of just throwing the old one away, we're like, oh, we can just put this where Yoda's litter box used to be. We'll put the new one
for
here.
For
emergencies. And then we actually used it quite a bit in Crete.
Yeah, because they didn't have good RV dump systems on the island.
Places to empty it as much. So then because right after we got the second one, we decided to keep that first one around just for a little bit. And we had to use it right away, and it made us feel like, wow, maybe we need this.
So now we have 2 toilets.
Yeah, so now we have 2.
It's fine. Don't laugh at us.
Yeah. 10 gallons. Just extends how long we can go before we have to go find a place to empty.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of it. And then we got some new window covers.
Oh, at the RV show?
At the RV show, we got some new window covers that's designed for Sprinter, so we didn't have to use our...
homemade Reflectix.
Yeah, just
It's
reflectors
starting
cut
to
the shape.
bend, and
Yeah.
light's starting to come through a little
Reflectix
bit.
is fine when it's like tucked away inside the wall as insulation, but when you're using it, when you're taking it on and off and on and off all the time, they eventually wear
And it
out.
isn't. They don't sell it in Europe. You'd have to
No.
like Amazon ship it over, and it's a pain to wait somewhere for a shipment.
Yeah.
So
Super pain. Okay, so we talked about language issues
Yeah, we
already.
already did that.
Currency, we talked about currency issue a little bit. Just sort of banking in general, it's worked out really well for us. I use a credit card primarily that from my bank that doesn't charge foreign transaction fee. And it's kind of a card that's designed for traveling too, so I also don't get a lot of these travel alerts saying, oh yeah, somebody's using your car in this country. I guess that's good and bad. Like if I lose it, I don't know if it's safer or not as safe, but luckily I haven't lost it. I also have Charles Schwab as my sort of ATM card. I don't use it as my primary bank, but I transfer money from my main bank to that account on a regular basis to keep it at a certain level. I think I keep $1,000 in there on the average. So every time I go pull money out, I'll take out like $300 worth of whatever local currency. They don't charge any foreign transaction fees. They don't charge ATM fees. Whatever the third-party ATM charges, they reimburse me. So that's really cool. That's worked out really well. We've been using that since 2016 when we were in Mexico. And so both of those have been perfect for us. And on top of that, we use a service called TransferWise, which is kind of a weird service that I had to wrap my head around, like how I use it. But in Europe, there's a lot of issues that they have with money laundering. So they're really careful with money laundering. They don't like people transferring money from one bank to another bank to another bank, and stuff like that, especially from the U.S. to Europe and Europe from one country to another. But we have a Croatia phone plan, and we have to pay that bill, and we can only pay that bill through Marlene's Croatia bank account. So I have to transfer money into that on a regular basis, and the only way that we found to do it is use this TransferWise service, have both of my banks connected to that TransferWise account, so I can transfer from my bank into TransferWise and then from TransferWise into her Croatian account. So that's how we've been filling that account when we're not in Croatia and having to pay the bills.
But everybody's credit card in Europe is like a contactless with a PIN. And every time you show up with your, I have to swipe my card or stick it in the chip.
The only time I had to swipe, super old school, nobody swipes anymore. The only time when we swipe is when we're at Ramstein Air Force Base at the Taco Bell.
But then you also have to sign it, which nobody else in Europe has to sign a credit card. So everybody's always looking for a pen. Every time we show up at the grocery store, it's like, do you have a pen? Do you have a pen?
And every time they take my card, they insert it with the chip, and then they're always like turning the pin pad towards me, expecting me to punch in my pin. I'm like, no pin. And then when we bought the diesel heater, 1,000 euros, a little less than 1,000 euros, and then they put the chip in, it's like, they're like, no pin. Oh, that's very dangerous. So, well, yeah, it's probably dangerous. I should put a pin. Maybe but then I don't want to like put a pin on my account and then have it not work in some places. Actually, because it doesn't have a pin, my card doesn't work in some European McDonald's at one of those self-serve kiosks.
Yeah, you have to talk to the people.
Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty easy currency-wise. I try to get a bunch of local currency when I can. But in Scandinavia is a total like cashless country. Everywhere you go, it's like credit card. I don't think I got any Norwegian krones until like the last 2 or 3 days before we left, because I thought, okay, maybe there's going to be like a toll or something, or maybe a campground I have to pay cash. But all of Sweden, I don't think I went to the ATM at all. All of Finland, I didn't go to the ATM. And then Norway, barely at the end, I got a little bit of cash. So yeah, that's opposite of what we've done in Eastern Europe, because in the rest of Eastern Europe, we only use cash.
And Germany, too, which is surprising.
Oh, Germany has a lot of no credit card places, even like at fast food, like at the McDonald's, or like cash only. So, wow, really? At the McDonald's? Okay, so speaking of McDonald's, there's a really interesting thing to experience here is that there are no big European fast food chains that we recognize. They probably have some. Like the equivalent to like Mexican food, which is ubiquitous in the United States everywhere. Here in Europe is doner kebab. It's like Turkish or Greek or like Middle Eastern food. Like the big spinning layered meat spit where you shave off and then you put into a pita or
Right.
and they serve it with French fries. That's ubiquitous here everywhere, but there's no like big chain like a McDonald's or
it's all independent.
It's all independent. The big fast food chains, even at like highway rest stops and stuff, the big three: McDonald's, Burger King, KFC, all American companies.
Mm-hmm.
So we asked our Austrian friend, like, isn't that weird? He's like, yeah, you're right. There's no. I guess Europeans they're not into fast food, and they just eat the American stuff that comes over. So no refills.
No refills.
A couple places had refills. I think the one that had refills, you're supposed to pay like
extra. Yeah,
they have the fountains outside of the cash register. You go and fill up yourself, and you're supposed to pay somewhere. The places that have refills, the IKEAs have refills.
Yeah, but their soda's
but
gross.
They have their own weird soda.
Yeah,
right. Taco Bell had refill.
That was American based. That doesn't count. But like their trash cans are different. Like it's like, you poured the liquid out of your cup that you didn't drink. I don't know how people have leftover liquid because you don't have any refills. These poor people are so thirsty all the time. Why are they not drinking more? I'm so thirsty
all the time.
So there's like you empty out your liquid in a little separate like.
Yeah, and then there's like a lot of places it's not like in the U.S. You just like upend your tray into a giant trash can and then like shove the tray.
You got to organize your trash, or you put it on a tray, and then somebody else take it.
Put the plastic here, which is great. Like I think Europe does much better recycling their plastics, especially Scandinavia. Scandinavia has like the highest plastic recycling rate.
Yeah, that was awesome.
But I forgot what I was going to say.
I think that's the end of the podcast, Dan. I think you're all out of words. Finally, reached the end of the Dan Lin Internet.
My brain ended. No. Okay, this is what I was going to say. Some of them even have like these racks. It's the opposite of putting in the trash. It's like they just put your whole tray full of trash into these racks, and then they sort it out for you.
Yeah.
So I think that's another thing, is that they don't trust the customers to not recycle correctly or to recycle correctly. So then they just say, just put it in here. We'll do it for you. So that's I don't know. It feels kind of weird to end on the fast food note. but we had a really, really good year, I think. And it's starting to really feel like this is home, because I've said this a few times to people that we met. It's like they ask us, how long are you here? How long are you traveling for? And we're like, well, we're here. We've been here almost a year. Now we've been here a year. Originally we thought maybe 2 years, but now we're thinking maybe 3 years. But then, wow, everyone's really shocked. But then I was like saying, you know what? Like, we don't really even think about ourselves as being on a trip, because this is how we live in the U.S. and this is how we're living here. So us traveling here like this is basically us just having moved to Europe. So we're basically living in Europe. And the 3-year thing is just arbitrary also. Like, there's a chance that we stay here and go back to the U.S. to visit and come back.
Yeah, we just take it year by year. Just like our travels through North America.
I'm saying that's like, the low end of the percentage.
Right.
But there's no, I'm not ruling that part out. So, but yeah. It's feeling more and more like home, and actually coming back to Croatia, it feels like, we got to go eat at our favorite places.
Yeah. Do all the things. So,
yeah, that's been good. So, yeah, this has been actually almost a 2-hour episode, but it's, it's a 1 year roundup, so there was a lot to share. But I think a lot of stuff that we shared too probably dipped into a bit more of these individual country episodes, and then, maybe a little redundant for those of you that are going to listen to those as well, but we'll go into much more detail. So I think the next episodes that you hear will go back to some of the countries that we went to, but we haven't talked about. Specifically, we're going to go into a lot of detail about our time in Greece, because we spent 2 months there, and a lot of places that we went to that we really like. In fact, 2 months was not enough. We would like to do more in Greece. And then after that, we'll do an episode about leaving Greece and driving all the way up through and into Estonia and then ferry to Finland. And then we'll do all of Scandinavia and Finland as one episode, all the Nordic as one episode. And then that will get us sort of to leaving Denmark. And then we'll talk about Caravan Salon, and then we'll talk about coming back and being back here. So I think we're 2 or 3 episodes before we get into the next phase of our travels, which is year 2. So I guess in a way, we're 3 more episodes until the end of the season of season 1 of Lolly Mish Does Europe.
That's our
right? We have seasons now, right?
Right? Okay,
Yeah.
I guess we do.
We gotta go 3. We're gonna do 3 more, and then we can wrap the season up.
Okay.
Even though this episode sounds more like the season finale, and if you want to treat it like a season finale, you can, because you kind of got a gist of everything that you missed.
And if you enjoyed it, 5 stars.
Yes,
Please.
please go to.
Some lady gave
Go
us
to
3
iTunes.
stars the other day.
I know.
And she was. That was
She
not.
didn't write a review. She just gave the stars.
So
We need more
Why,
5
lady?
stars to
Why?
offset the 3 star.
if nothing nice to say, don't say it.
Yeah.
Or at least explain why. Don't just
Right.
leave a random 3-star review and just leave it like that. We need
know.
answers.
What
or we need
really
quiet from her.
What we really need is some people who actually find these podcast episodes useful and go to iTunes and give us 5 stars.
You would appreciate it.
We would really love it. So thank you guys, as always, for listening to these episodes, and especially this one. This is a long one. And if you guys are driving somewhere, if you guys are on the road, if you're traveling, if you're going to school, going to work, if we're in your years this whole time, we appreciate you dedicating a part of your day and, whatever time of the day and part of your life to listening to us ramble. And, now that we're back, we're going to catch you guys up with all the other episodes for this first season before we get on to next season. Just a little preview. This winter, we'll be heading over to Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. And then after that, we are currently thinking Scotland, right? That's a possibility.
Yeah, UK for the summer.
UK, Scotland for the summer.
Yeah.
So that could be very exciting. But that will be it for today. I want to thank you guys for listening, and we will see you guys or talk to you guys in the next episode.
Bye.